There, well, I'll keep to the United States again, which I know best, but there is a culture of fear that goes way back in American history, right from the beginning. You see it in popular literature and more recent times in movies and television. It's been well studied. A kind of a constant theme in the popular culture has been that we're on the verge of destruction. Somebody is about to destroy us. And at the last minute, a superhero comes or a super weapon is invented by our great technologists and it saves us, you know. That's a theme that runs through for centuries. A sub-theme is that the enemy that's going to destroy us is someone we're destroying. So it's the native population. They're going to come up and wipe us out. Or it's the black slaves. They're just waiting for a chance to come and murder all the whites and rape the white women and so on. Or later it's the Chinese. You think they're here to run laundries, but it's really those billions of Chinese that are coming in here and infiltrating, and they're going to take us over and destroy us. I mean, progressive writers like Jack London a century ago were writing that we have to destroy everyone in China by bacteriological warfare to prevent their insidious aim of doing this to us. Later, the Second World War was quite striking. It was the Huns, of course, and the Japs. But the Huns were treated, who were much more, as criminals, they were orders of magnitude worse. They were treated pretty calmly. This much I can remember. I mean, after all, they're blonde and blue-eyed and white-skinned. It can't be that bad. The Japanese, on the other hand, were just vermin, had to be crushed and wiped out. And you can even read the public literature. We have to wipe out their ant heaps and scurrying around like vermin and so on and so forth. But they're going to destroy us unless we destroy them first, so we got to destroy them. And then through the Cold War, you pick up one enemy after another. The Red Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Hispanic narco-traffickers, whatever they be. Iran today is going to come and destroy us. How? Well, nobody's very clear, but somehow Iran will destroy us, or maybe Cuba will destroy us. It can be the most minimal enemy. I mean, Ronald Reagan, it must be the most cowardly thug in history. Now venerated after a huge PR campaign. In 1985, he declared a national emergency in the United States because of the threat to the security of the United States posed by the government of Nicaragua, which had troops only 2 days away from Harlingen, Texas. So, you know, Nicaragua is going to come any minute now and just overwhelm us. If you look at it from the outside, you don't know whether to laugh or cry. But this is a constant theme, and it's a sort of a steady current, you know, which can always be stimulated when needed by cynical leaders with usual public relations techniques. When they decided they wanted to attack Iraq, you have Condoleezza Rice talking about the next time we hear from Saddam Hussein, it'll be a mushroom cloud in New York, and everybody's terrified, and so on. And so there's a back, and this is true to an extent in Europe too, I think to less of an extent. But it can be whipped up into fear and paranoia, and it's very real. It's an unfortunate feature of the culture, it's a strange culture in many ways. A part of it may be related to the fact that it's an extremely fundamentalist society. It's always been by far the most fundamentalist country among the industrial societies, maybe in the world. 2 centuries ago, there was early days of the Republic. There was a huge wave of fundamentalist fanaticism about how we got to quickly convert the whole world to speak English and save their souls, and the Second Coming, and so on. And it goes on and on like that. There's another one in the 1950s, or several in the 20th century. Right now, about a third of the population probably believes it doesn't matter what we do about global warming, say, because Jesus is coming pretty soon, you know. And so if there's global warming. What's the difference? It's because God wants it. And he's coming soon anyway, and those of us who are saved will rise to heaven, and everyone else will be massacred, and it'll be wonderful. In fact, when you look at even narrow positions like the incredible support for Israel, no matter what it does, and part of that is based on the fact that about the same third of the population, roughly, thinks we must support anything Israel does, because in fact, even if it leads to, say, a nuclear war, is great, because that's the way we read the book of Revelations, Armageddon, and so on and so forth, and then the second coming takes care of it all. It's this deep element of anti-Semitism in this, because the Jews are all going to get massacred unless they convert. But the Jewish community in the state of Israel supports it. In fact, even has kind of like missions to it, because they like what they're getting in the short term, even if they all get wiped out after Armageddon. These are strong elements in the society. To a lesser extent, they're there in Europe to a lesser extent, and there are other ones that are worse in Europe. But propaganda, state propaganda, business propaganda does play on these fears. I mean, take, say, Germany. Look, Germany in the 1920s, early 30s, was the peak of Western civilization, the absolute peak in the sciences and the arts. It was regarded as a model for democracy by American political scientists, everything, literature. I mean, within about 3 years, it was turned into a country of savage barbarians who carried out the worst crimes in history. And we were always right at the edge. In fact, we're doing it right now, and we don't notice it. So just take, say, the invasion of Iraq. I mean, one of the first things that Rumsfeld, Cheney, and Wolfowitz did was wipe out the core of Western civilization. The Sumerian sites, majority of them destroyed. A military base in Babylon. The National Museum looted. I mean, these are the riches of the origins of Western civilization. I mean, that's why Iraqis regarded it as like the Mongol invasion. But it gets much worse. Yesterday in the papers, you read that there was a suicide bomb in Mutanabi Street. Mutanabi Street is important in Middle East culture. That was the center of bookstores, literary cafes, lively discussion in Iraq, which was the most advanced in the Arab world. It survived right through the Saddam period with debates, discussions. It's kind of like the left bank, probably more advanced. That's Mutanabi Street. Well, it was practically destroyed last year. But the final blow was the suicide bombing a couple of days ago. Well, one of the newspapers quoted somebody there who they say in reverential tones repeated an Arab proverb, well-known Arab proverb. Cairo writes, Beirut publishes, Iraq reads. Okay, Iraq's not reading. We took care of that from the Sumerians up to the present. But Cairo is still writing. So if we can get out of our cocoons and become civilized, we can read what they're writing in Cairo, which is, for example, that during the U.S.-Israeli bombing of Lebanon, which is U.S.-Israeli, and I say it because that's what it was, they specifically targeted the cultural areas in Beirut. They wiped out the centers of publishing. They wiped out the centers where the bookstores are, because you must destroy the culture. We really are barbarians. We must destroy the cultures of the countries we're attacking. So now Cairo can still write, but Beirut can't publish and Iraq can't read. And just to make sure, we went all the way back to the Sumerians. Yes, it's a barbaric, savage culture that we live in. This doesn't mean anything in the West. Okay, so we wipe out the history of Western civilization and modern culture. Who cares? But it does mean something in other parts of the world. And we can't comprehend it, then you ask, well, why do they hate us? These are factors that have to be taken into account. We have to learn enough to understand what things mean to people in the world. Maybe we're too uncivilized to see them. Doesn't mean they don't.